Right, so for those hoping for big upgrades with the upcoming Mac Pro, that's really not going to be the case, according to a new report from Mark Gurman, so let's delve into it. So many of us were expecting big things for the Mac Pro release. We wanted a new Extreme chip, a new smaller design, maybe Apple's first external GPUs, but it seems that's not really going to be the case anymore, because Gurman says the 2023 Mac Pro is going to look identical to the 2019 version, which is a huge bummer because that massive enclosure is going to be wasted on Apple's Silicone, which is way more efficient and can be enclosed in a smaller design. And to add to the disappointment, Gurman once again tells us there will be no Extreme chip. The max this will get is the M2 Ultra, which is a successor to the M1 Ultra we saw in the Mac Studio. So once again, that gets me wondering, why is anyone going to buy this over the Mac Studio? Because you're getting the same performance. I'm sure the Mac Pro is going to be a lot more expensive. It's also going to be pointlessly massive. And so really there's no need to have the Mac Pro and the Mac Studio coexist. But anyways, it seems Gurman's answer to this is PCIe slots. So we had 8 of these with the original Mac Pro, and now this new version could have 2 of these. So you should be able to add more storage, and you should be able to use graphics, media, and networking cards. And yeah, that's really the only silver lining here, because we could see external GPUs maybe made by Apple for the Mac Pro, so that of course we have way more GPU grunt in this machine, and that's very much needed because Apple Silicone's main weakness is with the integrated GPUs, and so this is good news. But if I'm being honest, that's not enough, because there are 2 markets this Mac Pro could cater towards, and it doesn't really meet either of their requirements, because a prosumer who might have got the Mac Studio could get the Mac Pro instead, but you're paying more for the same performance, and most don't need the external GPU, they're fine with the M2 Ultra as is. And as for the true professionals needing the GPU grunt, they're going to be disappointed by the lack of expandable RAM, because apparently this won't have user-upgradable RAM like the 2019 models, and that is a massive blow for true professionals because the M2 Ultra should have a max of 192 gigs of RAM, which yes, for most of us is fine, but let's say the studios who use this to animate feature-length movies, they need tons of RAM, and while the 2023 Mac Pro is going to pale in comparison to the Intel version because you can get up to 1.5 terabytes of RAM in the current machines, so the lack of expandable RAM for the 2023 version is a massive issue. However, I can understand the argument that unified memory is what makes Apple Silicone this good and this reliable for most consumers, and so Apple needs to maintain this with the Mac Pro, but of course, because there is a lack of an Extreme chip, the M2 Ultra is simply not enough when it comes to RAM for true professionals. Now Gurman does actually end the report by telling us a good reason as to why Apple's not giving the Mac Pro big upgrades, and that's because it's a pretty niche product, it's not going to sell massive numbers, and so during a recession it's much easier for Apple to recycle the old design and not put development cost into a completely new design for this product and an M2 Extreme chip that would be way too expensive. And fair enough, I can understand that, but my big issue is the fact we have the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro with similar chips. There should really be more of a difference between these Macs. Either kill the Mac Studio off in the future like Gurman told us about, or give it only the M2 Max, and the Mac Pro only gets the M2 Ultra. They definitely need to differentiate the range if we do see minor upgrades for the Mac Pro. Anyways, for those wondering, the M2 Ultra should have a 24-core CPU, a 76-core GPU, and at least 192 gigs of RAM. Anyways, let's delve into your comments. So Davester4545 says, hopefully these displays won't get too much more expensive given the upgrades, especially since the Mac Mini is getting less expensive. Maybe Thunderbolt 5 will be needed to connect properly to these displays. And yes, regarding Thunderbolt, that could be a possibility, but regarding the price, I don't think the prices are going to be that cheap if we do see mini LED, because as we've seen with the iPads and Macs with this tech, they did see slight price increases, and so I'm pretty sure we're going to see price increases with these new displays. But let's hope Apple actually includes a stand with the actual display for the price. That would be appreciated if we get a price increase. So Joe says, one thing though, Apple should have said the Pro display is $6,000, but the stand can be removed for a $1,000 discount. I guess so, that was intentional for the product to be talked about, but what do you think? So yes, I do remember this moment on stage quite vividly, and I do agree that Apple should have said, hey, the display's $6,000, but remove the stand and get a discount, instead of saying, hey, the display's $5,000, and you have to spend another $1,000 on the stand. It's all in the delivery, and if Apple changed their script, then yes, this whole stand thing would have not become a meme. Then again, like you say, maybe Apple's doing this on purpose. Controversy at the end of the day gets more people talking about the product, and so maybe this was a big brain move from Apple, we don't know, but either way guys, I'm still hoping there's a stand included with the new Pro display, because at $6,000, you should not pay extra for a bloody stand. So Nathan says, I do think you're right about the 24-inch iMac possibly skipping the M2 and going straight to M3. In fact, if I remember correctly, it was a report from this year in which Gurman listed M2 Macs that were in testing and rumoured to be in the pipeline, and the 24-inch iMac was the only Mac computer to not be among the group. And honestly, as minimal as the upgrades and improvements of the M2 are over the M1, I can see why the 24-inch iMac might skip M2 altogether and go straight to M3. If this happens though, I truly hope the M3 chip is ready and that the iMac gets updated. With M3 by October/November, I realise that the M1 is still more than powerful enough for my needs, but I don't want to pay full price for a computer and chip that is already 2 years old. I also wonder what's going to release first, the upcoming 15-inch MacBook or this 24-inch iMac with the M3 chip. I'm hoping both these machines are released in 2023 but not at the same time, so my pocket's not hit all at once and gives me time to adjust and get used to using these Macs and macOS instead of Windows PCs that I've used for my entire life. So first of all, I think you're going to enjoy moving to macOS. I also was using Windows early in my life, but once I switched to macOS, I never looked back. I've been enjoying it since. And regarding the 24-inch iMac, I do agree that yes, skipping M2 and going to M3 makes sense. This iMac does not need frequent updates, and so updating this when the chip upgrades are actually major enough, that does make sense. And regarding the release, October/November does make sense, and I think the 15-inch MacBook's going to release first. Ross Young says that's going to see a spring release, and so unfortunately that's likely to get the M2 chip, but at least you'll get to use that first and get used to macOS, and then get the iMac with the M3 chip in October. But guys, tell me your thoughts regarding this in the comments below. Anyways, thank you for watching guys, make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumours, and on that note, I'll see you guys in the next one.